Hello, everybody. My name is Anna Jonalagada. I'm the manager for instructional technology and served as a project manager for this cool project that we would like to share with today. So the project is the automation of grade transfer from D2L to our student information system. And we are from Texas, Lonestar College. And the layout of this presentation is going to be in this sequence. And here I am joined by my team members, Mark Filer, who is a senior instructional technologist, and Nadia Mahabir. She is a business analyst with Campus Solutions, and Allison Kostrinsky. She is the senior instructional technologist. And we are excited to share the details of the project. And as a project manager for this project, my goal was to make sure I define the scope and understand the scope and communicate that. So the student information system in Lonestar College is PeopleSoft. And because of the integration versions limitation, D2L has told us that the minimal integration grade transfer is the version that they are going to implement for us. And the implementation details around this project are that it was all or none grade transfer. That is one of the limitations. So our faculty will not be able to pick and choose the students they want to push grades on. And then this export to istar button that we chose to use for the push of the grades from D2L to istar or PeopleSoft, I call it istar, is going to be a push mechanism, and also that the button will not be able to be hidden on some courses when the grade submission window lapses. So this button will be visible at all times. And then it's a push mechanism, and it's also all or none mechanism, and there is no way to pass any date, attendance date or whatsoever from D2L. And then the grade scheme that faculty need to comply with should be a letter grade scheme, and they won't be able to pass any pass or fail kind of information to our PeopleSoft, which is istar. And then the checks and balances that we had to put ourselves, because the button is always visible, was a custom implementation route that we took in PeopleSoft with the help of a programmer to make sure the information flows back into D2L for grade submission outside of the window. And then on our side, the other mechanism that is already in place in istar scoops grades up every 2 hours, a process, and then posts the grade. So given all these functionalities, once they became clear that D2L, this is how the D2L implementation looks like, and this is how the current process in istar is, within those limitations, we started to set out to implement the project. And for me, it was important to maintain an internal timeline within the college and a timeline that is shared with D2L. So we know exactly when we meet with the internal teams, the internal challenges that we have, the internal timelines of the different session durations that we have. So the coolest thing about this project from my perspective is that it was a very cross-functional, collaborative project, as grades, as you can imagine, impacts every single class and every single faculty. So we were changing something that is very fundamental to their daily process. So it was very critical that the internal communication between the different teams that were working to take this project to the finish line be extremely clear, extremely be communicated. That way any faults that we may have could be easily ironed out. And with that, let me go to the next slide. And we also chose the strategy of not releasing this to completely to the entire college, because Lonestar college system is very huge. It has multiple campuses. So we chose to release it to a contained pool of 3 faculty, made sure it was success before we proceeded into launching it full scale. And we also made sure that the key stakeholders got separate communications, and they were involved in the release, and they got their internal trainings, separate trainings. So our tier 1 support team, for instance, the instructional side support teams, all of them were communicated separately of the timeline and how it works, so they in turn can turn around and help the faculty if the faculty choose to approach them. And then the communication was also one of the key pillars for the success of this project, be it system-wide and to the key stakeholders. And having timeline mapped out to make sure the training is reaching to faculty at multiple different timelines, be it 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, all those grade submission windows were targeted to make sure faculty have the training within their reach. And that too, a synchronous training that they can pop in and ask questions, and it's not just a recorded training. So all the important key pieces were put in place for this project success. And now I will transfer it over to another key member to take this project to the finish line, Nadia Mahabir. She's a business analyst from the Campus Solutions team, a sister team in our college. Nadia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nadia Mahabir. I was the business analyst for this D2L integration project. My primary role was serving as the central coordinator across multiple departments, including record and enrollment, the D2L online team, the ERP technical team, training team, and the faculty stakeholders. I think integration, it impacted multiple systems. So that cross-functional alignment was very critical to make sure that all process remained synchronized and it was successful. Um, from a technical coordination perspective, one thing you would have to work closely with your ERP infrastructure team is to make sure that you also factor in the support for the firewall and whitelisting configurations, making sure that you also put in a timeline for enabling secure ISPIS communication and validating that the integration requirements between D2L and PeopleSoft is set up. Um, in addition to that, I also was responsible for the functional design document, the FDD, the requirement traceability matrix, the end-to-end test plan, which I worked with Ms. Anna D2L team to come up with more profound and more accurate testing scenarios, also process flows and integration scenarios I was responsible for. One of the major challenges I was limited to in the beginning of the project was the outdated documentation for the push-based D2L integration. To address this, I started researching what other colleges were doing. And when we did come on board with the draft FTD, a lot of it had to be changed because the D2L vendor informed us that those were outdated. Another significant factor that I need to point out is that even though the integration for D2L is finished and successful, one thing your college has to be aware of at all times is the ongoing impact of PeopleSoft updates and also POM updates. These things, POM updates and PeopleSoft update, it could impact the grade roster functionality, the search records, faculty processing. So you need to have continuous regression testing whenever we have those updates. Moving on to the second slide, um, the focus with testing, that was very, very important. One of the key things with testing is that, and was very valuable, is that we were able to test with real-time courses that faculty had in progress. So we were able to capture feedback early and also resolve issue before any production rollout. So some of the challenges that we came across, like with the letter grade and the numeric grade, all of those things were ironed out before we fully implemented it. So overall, I would say that my role as the BA, and your role as a BA, one of the main things that you would need to do is to make sure that there is integration among all the different departments and teams, and make sure that there is a strong cross-functional coordination. And communication is very important to be able to bridge the technical and business operations together. So I'll pass it back on to Miss Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. I'll now pass it on to Allison.
Allison, you're muted.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Kostrinsky. I work as an online technologist and an LMS admin for our Lonestar College. So as we started the project from start to finish, these were some of the things that we had to consider within our D2L environment. So we looked at our Brightspace configuration, which included config variables, roles and permission, and language management. We handled the testing with Nadia's group, and we determined how we would handle errors that we saw and the meaning of specific errors that we saw, documentation and training.
Hello, I'm Mark Filer. As Anna said, I'm an instructional technologist with Lonestar College, and I'm going to talk about how we handled configuring D2L during this project. First, we used the language management page in D2L to adjust the wording used by the tool, mainly for ease of use for faculty. We replaced, the default terminology in D2L is very broad, very generic, but our college, just like many other organizations, we have our own language, our own lingo, so to speak. And so we use the language management tool to align everything in this tool, all of the verbiage with that lingo so that faculty would very quickly and easily recognize what the buttons meant, what they're for, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is the config variables. When we went with the config variables, when we looked at them from all angles. There's two primary considerations that we came across when we were considering them. Mainly it was compatibility and smoother communication with our SIS system. And second, it's the user friendliness. Again, we wanted to set the configs in such a way as to reduce any kind of extra work for our faculty. Obviously, this is going to be a change no matter what for them, but we wanted to make this change as smooth as possible and reduce any extra steps by aligning the config variables with their normal processes. For your project, this is going to vary. It depends on the scope and goals of the project. It depends on which config variables you're looking at for the tool that you're working on. And so everything's going to change for everyone. And now I'll throw it back to Allison to look at documentation and training.
So during our testing process, we wanted to ensure a seamless rollout with a collaborative testing plan that was developed between our departments that targeted high probability scenarios. Our teams worked together to identify potential issues that would exist between the SIS customizations that were in place and the D2L course configurations. This collaborative plan focused on creating real-world test scenarios to exercise the integration and verify that grades were successfully updated in the SIS grade roster. Mark and I worked through the plan to thoroughly validate grade export features between two separate environments before moving it to our production environment. This process involved frequent coordination with Nadia's team to validate our results and to see what results they were getting in the SIS environment. The shared testing document was maintained to clearly track the pass-fail results and included screenshots for review between each department. Weekly check-in meetings were held to receive feedback on testing results, and we maintained communication so that we were aware of any issues that we're running into.
Once again, I'll talk about documentation and training. So for documentation, this slide here is an example of our knowledge base. It's called the Virtual Teaching Assistance Center. And here we have like a one-stop shop for faculty. We have step-by-step guides, demos, training recordings, and they're all available in one easy-to-find location. For this project, we created a demo video and we have a training recording for them. We often do one or the other, but this time we went very thorough for the scope of this project. How you are going to deliver your documentation is obviously going to be very different based on your organization's methods. Everyone does things differently. When it came to ongoing training, we had a partnership with our IT department. They have their own training team, and so we coordinated to give regular live Zoom trainings. I believe Anna mentioned those earlier. So we do those, several times up to when grades are due every semester. And then lastly, when it comes to error handling during the testing phase, we basically 2 times during the testing phase and then after. So during the testing phase with the error handling, we developed a detailed test plan to keep track of the process. This involved clear documentation of all results, and it was maintained as a public document that everyone doing the testing had access to. Testing is a very long and complex process, and you can have lots of people working on it. So that level of detail with everyone updating this testing document was necessary to keep track of everything going on at once. For the implementation, error handling, we developed a clear pathway of support, working with our Tier 1 support team so that they knew how to triage each issue and determine whether it's more of a SIS issue or more of a D2L issue, and then route it to the appropriate team. And finally, I'll throw it back to Anna to conclude.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Allison, and thank you, Nadia. The success for this project came from strong internal communication first before communicating with the vendor. So thereby we had developed a strong partnership with our Campus Solutions sister team, which relied on heavy documentation like FDD, like testing plans. And the strength that we brought into the project was the D2L domain knowledge, admin knowledge, and strong, timeline planning and strong internal emphasis on internal partnership first before external partnership, and the phased rollout and the phased communication also to make sure all parties are involved. So the project was such a great success. Many faculty have adopted the new method, making sure we also made sure the manual route of uploading grades is also available. So both options were available, and the project became such a great success thanks to, again, our sister team, and thanks to our internal team, Mark and Allison, that the project had come to such great fruition and wide acceptance. With that, thank you all. If you have any questions about this project and would like to reach out to any four of us, vtac@lonestar.edu will be our email. And thank you for your time, and good luck with your project implementations.